I thought I wanted to be an English professor at a small New England college, rake leaves, jumping them in the fall. But then I got involved with the theater department too. So by the time I graduated from college, I think I sort of also wanted to be an actress. I actually did summer stock. One of my theater professors recommended me to Lake Sunapee Playhouse, which I think no longer exists in New Hampshire, and it was a great summer theater. And so I did summer stock for a summer, and then I went to New York because I had never lived in a city. I grew up in a town south of Boston, went to school in Durham, New Hampshire, and so I got a call from a high school friend of mine, actually a high school acquaintance. We weren't even friends. At the end of my senior year, because I never plan ahead. I never have, never do. I'm not good at it. I just don't plan ahead. But she called in my senior year and said, "You want to meet me in New York and we'll get an apartment together?" I said, "Okay." So she literally said, "Meet me on the corner of 57th and Park on September whatever at 10 o'clock in the morning and we'll find a place to stay." I said, "Okay." So that's how I came to go to New York. I worked in the garment district. I ordered velvet. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I did that. I did all kinds of temporary jobs but I discovered that there was an industry in television, which had never occurred to me, that television was an industry. Television, which I loved, was an industry. So I eventually got a job as a tour guide at NBC in New York. I harangued the guy who was hiring until he hired me, basically, because there were a lot of young people just out of college who wanted that job. That locker room was full of young Turks who wanted to find their way in the television industry. So I really had to I went to see him every other day, lunch break for my temporary job. "You got to hire me," He finally did. 2 months as a tour guide, and then I harangued the people on the Tonight Show to hire me. So, because that was the most exciting thing I thought that was going on at NBC in New York at the time, the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson at the time. And so I finally got a job. I left the locker room, the tour guide locker room, and got a job as a schlepper, as a low-level whatever on the Tonight Show. I answered Johnny Carson's fan mail. I answered the calls off the street. I got coffee for whoever needed it. I did that for a little while, and then, and that was actually fun. And then I became, I don't know if they called them secretaries or assistants then. Assistants, I think. An assistant to the associate producer.
So were you there when the show taped?
Oh yeah. I didn't have to be, but I loved it. So yeah, I mean, my God, yeah.
Did you learn anything about television?
Oh my God, yes. I mean, first of all, it was production, so it was totally unglamorous. It was a 6th floor and metal desks, and But the talent coordinators, everybody was together. There was no nobody had like a plush, removed sort of office space. So you got to hear what the talent coordinators were doing, what the writers were doing, you just were involved in the whole thing. And then when I became the associate producer's assistant, I used to write up the interviews, that Carson would eventually get. The associate producer and the talent coordinators would pre-interview the guests. And the assistants, we were all young women of the same age. We were all 21, 22, 23. We all were having the best time. And we were all in a kind of a bullpen right outside the guys' and women's offices that were talent coordinators and producers. And we were all typing up the interviews and basically doing the guys' jobs, because that's what a good assistant does. You find out what talent is in town, you make up some of the questions if they didn't get around to it, or, it was fabulous. It was great.